All right, joined in studio with Miss Cherrah Ridge here on Native News Today. Want to thank Miss Ridge for stopping in with us. Certainly been a busy lady, crisscrossing the country in support of our Native women and a lot of different issues. And want to thank you for being with us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
You got it. Well, first off, I want to talk to you about a very great honor that you received recently. You were named the Oklahoma Federation of Indian Women's Indian Woman of the Year. Gosh, that's got to be not only humbling, but just such a great honor for you. I know you take to heart such things go on in Indian country, and especially with our Native women and empowering them and things like that. So it's got to be a great thing for you.
It really was. Of course, you have to be nominated and selected by the committee to receive that award and be an active member of the Oklahoma Federation of Indian Women. So one of the ladies said, I want to nominate you for this. You do so much in the community and with your family. And of course, it's humbling just to be nominated and just to see that someone thinks of you in that way. So when she said, I was very thankful for that, and just realizing the work that I do doesn't always go unnoticed, and you don't do that type of work or the type of work that I'm into for accolades or awards or any of things like that. So when someone does want to honor you for that, it means a whole lot just again to seem like that someone's actually paying attention to the work that you are doing.
Right, and the OFIW, they do so many things throughout the year, and that's why it is a great thing. So many of our Indian women do these things out of their care and respect for their culture and heritage, just not to get an award or anything like that. But it is nice when things are recognized like that in so many different types of things, not only Woman of the Year, but Student of the Year, things like that, the kids that are doing good in school, and really it's sort of a situation where you can press them on to do greater things through incentives like being recognized.
Definitely, that's part of the award ceremony, and a lot of those awards are actually named for some of the founding members. And for me, it's always about giving back. I really try to look at my community to say, hey, who's doing this type of work? Who's someone we can honor this year that maybe somebody's not looking at? It's not always those out front people, those outspoken people. Sometimes it's those behind the scene people that are making everything happen. And just, again, to recognize their efforts and say, we're paying attention and we appreciate what you're doing, especially for our Indian communities. With me having 4 children, that's what's always in the back of my mind. How can I make a difference for their lives and for their future? And just the way I was raised, I was always taught you get out there, don't wait to be asked to do something, don't wait to be told to do something, you just start doing it. And my mother and grandmother, they didn't ever pull me aside and hold me by my collar and say, you're going to do this. They just showed me that through their own actions. And that's what I did, is just get out there and try to see, and if I can see a need, then try to meet that need before someone has to come and ask for help. And that's a lot of what I pride myself on.
Definitely, and hopefully your mother also showed you how to make that fry bread, because she's one of the best in the country. I'm telling you, certified. Won some contests and things like that. Debbie Ridge, but definitely, definitely many thanks to her and your grandmother, for instilling that in you, because it's led to a lot of, like you said, work and really just going to bat and advocating for tribal needs. And you had to rush home to get this award because you were in Washington, D.C. advocating for our Native women on a national scale. Folks, everyone out there, if you don't know about VAWA, the Violence Against Women Act, that's being, actually it's being talked about today on the national level, then you've been under a rock or you haven't been paying attention, because this is something that I think that, on a national level, it's our chance to show these people that our tribes are sovereign, they are absolutely capable of handling themselves and on their lands and with as it goes for their people, and acts against their people. And you were in Washington recently to advocate for our Native women on that scale. Talk a little bit about your trip and really what I guess a blessing it was for you to be able to go and do that.
It really was a blessing. It's been a long time coming, because obviously when we heard about VAWA, the Violence Against Women Act reauthorization, and the tribal provisions that were being asked for this year, this started back in October, and we came back to our tribe and we said, hey, what can we do? One of the staffers from the National Council Office, and I got with the Family Violence Prevention Office and said, what can we do from our nation perspective to really start trying to bring a voice to this and an awareness to this? So we started doing that with some of the programming and just emails and using the social networks to let people know what's going on. And it's power in numbers. We can't do this alone. We can tell our stories all day long, but to go out and make those phone calls, to call Congress, to call House Representatives, say, hey, this is what's needed. And it came at a fortunate time too that a UN representative came to Tulsa,
Right.
and we reinforced that tribes need to be able to protect its people on tribal lands, or any people. And that's what we have to keep stressing. The crimes that occur on Indian country go unheard of, unsaid, because we don't have jurisdiction over non-natives.
Right.
Some of the Congress issues where they were unconstitutional, tribes aren't set up to handle these cases, and we are. And it's like, with Muscogee Creek Nation being the 4th largest tribe in the nation, we have to show them and be in the front and center and be in the lead to say, yes, we can handle these cases, and we need to be able to do that to protect our women and our families. So I was invited. They had a House briefing. The Native American Caucus hosted a House briefing. I was invited to come and attend and tell my story and come from a different perspective to be able to talk about programs and how VAWA, actually the funding that comes down through the federal government, helps our people there. One of the other survivors told her story and how she was married to a non-native, and his crime never went punished. I mean, he tried to murder her.
Yeah.
And yet that never went on record because it was on tribal land. They couldn't prosecute him, and he was at a point taunting her, calling the police, saying, they can't do anything to me because I'm on tribal land, and he was a non-native. And yet he was picked up for a traffic charge, never charged with domestic violence or attempted murder. That's a reality we live in. It's 2012,
Right.
and it's very sad to say that you can go commit a crime anywhere else in the world and be punished for it in any city, county, country. Come to Indian country, be non-native, and you could almost just get away with it.
And that's just one example. That's the scary thing, Cherrah, is that this is probably happening, and is happening on a large scale. There's many number of cases like this, to where I don't know if it's a disconnect that they don't pay attention, but it's time for our Native people to start being heard, and being heard in a large way, especially when we're progressing and having our courts intact, definitely ready, our tribal law enforcement, our light horse, up to the task of doing all these things. I mean, is it a disconnect, you think, to where they just don't understand, or they just don't want to pay attention?
I think they don't want to pay attention. I mean, it is that disconnect and not realize, and that's why when we were invited to come up there to tell our stories, because they're questioning, are the numbers even real? Is this really even happening? Yet statistics show 1 in 3 Native women will be raped or be sexually assaulted in her lifetime. We have the highest incidence of domestic violence. And those numbers are still very skewed because the reporting is so low, reporting within communities, reporting of how it's reported, and women aren't calling because it's never there's nothing that's being done. Or when they are picked up, the perpetrators are picked up, it's for a totally different crime, not domestic violence. And it's sad to say that, yes, we're first Americans, this is our country, we haven't been anywhere else, and this is happening on our own tribal lands that we can't protect our own. It boils down to human rights and civil rights, and just a human issue that we're not being protected equally.
And that's one thing that we're going to, like you said, folks, we're going to have to get on the phone. We're going to have to call our congressmen. We're going to have to call our representatives. That is their job. Their job is to be elected and to listen to their constituents that call them with these concerns. And that's the only way it's going to change. If we all come together, 5 fingers is okay, but when we ball it into a fist, it's much more effective. And if you look at what's happening there, we will definitely keep you briefed up on the hearings and whatnot from VAWA as it happens today, actually, and on through the coming weeks. So one thing I do want to talk about with you before we let you go is, you are a former member of the National Council, and I sort of have to get used to that, and I'm sure you do too, saying former, because you have been on the council, and it's just recently that you took another post here at the tribe. But talk about being the head of the Community Services Division, and really, from yourself, always being involved in the communities before, it's got to be something for you to really empowers you to do a lot at that level, and to really get in there and look and see what we can do better for our communities at the Creek Nation, and having that as your job, it's got to be a wonderful thing.
It really is. I don't think I've stopped running yet since I've got here. This is only week 3 for me, but I'm excited. I mean, it hasn't been an 8-hour job yet. It's been a 13, 18-hour day job, but I love every minute of it because there's so much we can improve upon, so much we can do differently, and really start looking at what we can do in our programs, what we can do differently, or how we can improve upon them, and then service more citizens that we can. Leaving tribal council was a very difficult decision. It wasn't an easy one. served for 10 years, and when this opportunity presented itself, you know, I had to really pray about it and take that back home and say, you know, how can I serve? And realizing my life circumstances, I still had to work full time and try to do tribal council too. Something was going to have to give, and this new position allows me that opportunity to do what I love to do. My background's in social work, and be here at Muscogee Creek Nation. It's so exciting to be here on campus every day and see what everybody else is, you know, what's going on, and really looking at, we're a government. We're, you know, and a lot of the programs I have are the social programs, but how can we really affect families' lives and make them more self-sufficient so that they're wanting to give back to their government as well. But
and you look
they're
at
excited.
Exactly, and you look at around the tribe itself. There's a lot of infusion of youth coming into positions to where, you know, we're really empowered and you know, get out there and get those grants and figure out what we need here at Creek Nation to be able to get the resources in. So it's really fulfilling and wonderful to see in that regard, and we wish you nothing but the best, and definitely always great to have you here on the program, and want to thank you for coming in, being in studio with us today.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Mado.